This boy showed a flight attendant his arms, and the pilot had to delay the flight when this happened. In the bustling cabin of Flight 298, Jane Novak, a seasoned flight attendant, moved effortlessly through the aisles, attending to her passengers with practiced ease. At 32, Jane was no stranger to the skies. She had chosen this high-flying career precisely because it allowed her to meet fascinating people from all walks of life and visit a myriad of exciting destinations. The thrill of flying seemed endless, with each journey presenting a new adventure. Little did Jane know, today's flight would offer more than she bargained for. As Jane made her usual rounds, ensuring that every passenger was comfortable and content, her attention was drawn to a young boy sitting alone in seat 14B. His name was Sam, a bright-eyed 6-year-old with a crown of tousled brown curls and an infectious spirit. Jane had encountered many children during her flights, some far livelier than others, but Sam was in a league of his own. Sam was a bundle of energy and nerves, a common combination among young travelers. He expressed his feelings through a series of captivating hand gestures that caught Jane off guard and brought a smile to her face. As she approached, their eyes met, and he launched into a symphony of comical noises reminiscent of small animals. Nearby, Sam's father was deeply immersed in the glow of a laptop screen, oblivious to his son's playful display, a detail not lost on Jane. Every so often, Jane couldn't help but glance back at Sam. His antics had not only captured her attention, but also amused some nearby passengers who were unable to suppress their laughter. Sam's actions, however, began to draw varied reactions from the cabin, forcing Jane to consider addressing his behavior. She moved closer, leaning down to his level with an inviting smile. "Hey there, what's your name?" she asked, gently coaxing an introduction. "I'm Sam," he declared, with the unabashed confidence only a child could muster. "Well, Sam, you're quite the entertainer," Jane chuckled, ruffling his hair fondly. "But we need to keep it down a bit, okay? People are trying to rest." She delivered the request with a warm smile, though inside she doubted Sam's energy would be contained for long. No sooner had she returned to her duties than the sound of giggling echoed from Sam's direction once more. This time, he was the centerpiece of an impromptu comedy show, performing an array of exaggerated expressions and sounds that delighted an elderly couple seated across the aisle. Jane's patience was being tested, forcing her to take more assertive action. "Sam, please sit still," she coaxed again, kneeling beside him. "But I'm bored," Sam replied, his eyes wide with innocent plea. Thinking quickly, Jane recalled an age-old distraction. "How about drawing something?" she suggested, offering him a pen and a napkin from her own bag. Sam accepted the makeshift art supplies with enthusiasm, turning his attention to his newfound canvas. The temporary reprieve allowed Jane to resume her work, though she continued to cast wary glances in his direction. It wasn't long before she heard Sam's voice again, proudly waving a napkin filled with his artistic doodles and resuming his cacophony of sounds. Jane approached for a third time, maintaining her calm, though inwardly she felt her patience waning. This time she sought the father's intervention. "Excuse me, sir, could you please help your son settle down?" she implored, hoping for respite. Finally, drawing his gaze from the laptop, the father blinked at Jane, then Sam, before offering a dismissive, "Sam, buddy, sit down, okay?" But his words barely registered with Sam, who continued to entertain and engage his new audience. As the plane began its taxi down the runway, Jane noticed something more concerning about Sam. His small hands, previously flapping like bird wings, were now red and covered in scratch marks. Alarm bells rang in Jane's mind as she realized these were signs of distress, possibly allergies or irritation. "Sir," Jane addressed the father again, urgency edging her voice. "There seems to be something wrong with Sam's hands. They're very red, and it looks like he's been scratching them." This caught the father's attention. He turned in his seat, finally seeing his son's hands and face fully, and his eyes widened in response. The red hue now visible spread beyond Sam's hands to his neck and cheeks, adorned with tiny bumps that elicited a fervent scratching from the boy. Alarmed, Jane suggested speaking privately, and she urged him to examine Sam's reddening hands more closely. The boy's irritation seemed bizarrely intense, prompting Jane to notify the captain and a fellow flight attendant about the possibility of a medical issue. Acting swiftly, the captain halted the flight's path to the runway, signaling a pause for immediate attention. Through the intercom, he communicated to passengers about a brief delay due to a medical concern, while Jane focused on on trying to ease Sam's discomfort. Upon landing, as murmurs of concern murmured throughout the cabin, Jane remained by Sam and his father, offering solace and reassurance until ground medical help arrived. The father expressed his anxiety and clearly felt overwhelmed by the situation, thanked Jane profusely for her vigilance and care. As Jane escorted Sam and his father to meet the medical team waiting for them in the terminal, she could sense the father's regret mixed with gratitude. "I had no idea," he said, shaking his head. "Thank you for noticing and taking action." Jane leaned down to Sam, gently squeezing his small hand. "You're going to be just fine, Sam. They'll take care of you now." While the ambulance carrying Sam disappeared into the distance, Jane returned to the plane, where the other passengers awaited further updates. Turning to address them, she offered a concise explanation to quell their curiosity. "We've taken the necessary precautions. The boy is in good hands and receiving the care he needs," she assured them. Minutes passed, stretching into what felt like hours, with silence hanging thickly in the cabin, until the captain's authoritative voice crackled through the speaker once more. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have received an update from the medical team. The boy is being treated for an allergic reaction. There is no viral infection." A collective sigh of relief rippled through the passengers, and Jane felt the heavy weight of tension lift from her shoulders. She resumed her duties, offering comforting smiles and refreshments, her focus undeterred by earlier events. In the tranquility that followed, Jane reflected on this particular flight's chaotic unfolding. While challenging, it underscored the dynamic nature of her job, a constant call to adapt and respond with competency and empathy. Despite the unpredictable situations, Jane knew her love for travel and the diverse interactions it offered outweighed any fleeting disturbances. As the aircraft soared back into the sky, now missing the commotion that came with young Sam, Jane prepared herself for whatever else the day might bring.